Hey guys, welcome back. It's Miss Caceres again. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and it's going to be a great year. So, we're going to be opening up a new unit right now, Unit 4, entitled The Fight for Freedom. And we have a quote by Harriet Tubman: I should fight for liberty as long as my strength lasts. So, we have a stream start here for you guys. Let's listen.
A great country that had not made due on its promise.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
A changing country that had been growing at different rates in different regions. A country divided. A country where not everyone was free, but where people were willing to risk their lives to gain that freedom, to protect their culture, to preserve their nation.
Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and dedicated, can long endure.
They built the Underground Railroad. They fought the Civil War. And the United States that emerged was different than what it was before. A new future dawned.
What will people risk to be free?
Okay, so I hope that video enlightens you a little bit about the fight for freedom. Our essential question for this unit is what will people risk to be free? Our academic vocabulary is access, civil, demonstrate, document, and symbolize. We'll be doing a word network for each one of those. Remember that in our word network, that includes definition, synonym, antonym, word root or origin, related words, and sentence or clarifying example. Now, we're going to go straight into the story. Well, what goes into the story, which in this case would be the signpost in our notice and note. The story that we will be reading is from the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglas, an American slave, which means that it's an autobiography or a biography. First of all, one of the first signposts that you guys will see will be word gaps. Because Douglas wrote his autobiography more than 170 years ago, some of his language can be challenging for modern readers. Some words might be unfamiliar because they had different meanings in the past than they do now. You may also encounter phrases that seem clumsy or unclear. But before we get to those clumsy phrases, let's take a look at here. It says, when you notice one of the following while reading, pause to see if it's a word gap signpost. Unfamiliar vocabulary, familiar words used in unexpected ways, phrases that seem awkward or unclear, words in italic or bold-faced type which may be specialized for technical terms. Now, some of these phrases that seem clumsy and unclear might look like this. They gave tongue to interesting thoughts of my own soul, which had frequently flashed through my mind and died away for want of utterness. The underlined phrase may seem strange to you. We usually think of tongue as the thing that helps us eat and want as a desire. However, in this context, those words have other meanings. Context clues can help us figure that out. Thoughts and flash through my mind suggest that both underlined phrases have to do with expressing ideas or speaking. In this example, a student underlined a word gap. I lived in Master Hugh's family about 7 years. During this time, I succeeded in learning to read and write and accomplishing things. I was compelled to resort to various strategies. I had no regular teacher. My mistress, who had kindly commenced to instruct me, had, in compliance with the advice and direction of her husband, not only ceased to instruct, but had set her face against mine being instructed by anyone else. So here's an anchor question. Do clues in the sentence help you understand the word and phrases? What do the phrases compelled to resort to various stratagems mean? What clues help you find the meaning? Stratagems looks like the word strategy. The context reveals that Douglas wanted to learn to read and write. He didn't have a real teacher, so he had to figure out another way to learn. Another signpost we'll come in contact with this story is contrasts and contradictions. When something unexpected happens, our first reaction is usually surprise. Upon further reflection, however, we might ask ourselves whether the event was truly unusual or our expectations were just unrealistic. Noticing similar contrasts and contradictions while reading can help deepen your understanding of the topic you are reading about. An author might point out an interesting contrast using signal words and phrases such as however and on the other hand. Excuse me. Or something you read might contradict your own expectations. If the latter is the case, pause to see how the new information fits in with your previous knowledge. The following sentence from the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass could be an example of contrast and contradictions. Slavery proved as injurious to her as it did to me. When you notice a signpost, ask yourself, what is the difference and why does it matter? What expectation does this sentence contradict? The sentence suggests that slavery can cause harm to both slaveholders and enslaved people. This contradicts the expectation that slavery is harmful only to the people who are enslaved. And finally, big questions. Suppose you watch a TV show about a foreign country. What will you share with your friends the next day? Most likely you'll talk about the things that surprised you, such as strange foods and unusual clothing. They are the most interesting new facts you learned. Remember to ask big questions when you read nonfiction texts. Pause to ask yourself these questions. What surprised me? Why was it surprising? Does the new information challenge my previous ideas or beliefs about the topic? Sorry again. When you read a nonfiction text, pause now and then, to ask yourself, what surprised me? This question can help you identify the new information you're learning. It can also help you recognize any incorrect ideas you had before you read the text. Notice how a student answered big questions about the following passage. Nothing seemed to make her more angry than to see me with a newspaper. She seemed to think that here lie the danger. I have had her rush at me with a face made up all furry and snatch from me a newspaper in a manner that fully revealed her apprehension. What surprised you in this passage? Douglas's mistress seems to be angry when he sees him with a newspaper, but she's actually afraid. What new information did you learn? Slaveholders were afraid of what would happen if enslaved children learned to read. Well, this is going to be a very interesting story. I can't wait to discuss it in class with you guys. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.